University, Professor Andaleep Koster, International Islamic University, or Dr. Hafizur Rahman Sahab, Head Disaster Management, Al Khidmat Foundation. And my name is Dr. Shafqat Munir. I am Deputy Executive Director at SDPI. And I am the person who actually dealing with the resilience, disaster, or climatic hazard related matters. So thank you very much for joining today's webinar. As we know that now we have witnessed a lot of floods. We had losses in these floods. I would like to quote here that NDMA has presented in accordance with the other international agencies, interagency committee, which has had a National Disaster Management Plan 2025, along with the Monsoon Contingency Plan 2025. But when I was looking at the Contingency Plan 2025, which focused on basically 4 scenarios, one was relating to if some heavy water comes after rains from the mountain and it merges into Indus River, and that certainly goes down to the field, to the areas, plains that may hit Punjab and Sindh largely. So this scenario, we see that at the moment, Alhamdulillah, we are not facing. The second scenario, which was built in the Contingency Plan 2025, was relating to that there will be heavy rainfall in the northern mountains, which can affect Gilgit-Baltistan and northern areas in KP, which we have seen, we have witnessed that this scenario we had to face. The third was that there will be huge urban flooding due to heavy rainfall in Karachi. That has happened. And similarly, fourth scenario was if there is a kind of a glacier melting, then how it would be the situation. Some sort of this scenario has also been seen partly in parts of Gilgit-Baltistan. The scenario did not build about that there would be water coming from Indian side in other rivers, which are and largely we see Satluj is having some sort of flood situation, and other rivers, Ravi at Ganda Singhwala has on a high situation. But even if we look at Ravi at Ganda Singhwala has on a high situation. But even if we look at all the river position at the moment, River Kabul and other, we said that we see that only there is the Ganda Singhwala where we are having or looking at some sort of high level flood, but mainly other headworks reported where we can actually gauge how much cusic is going from there. That other are almost in normal or medium or low kind of flood related situation. The situation only thing which has created humanitarian problem is that what happened in 8 hardly hit districts in northern parts and in KP province that has damaged a loss. And even until now, many of the inaccessible areas are still remain inaccessible. Shopkeepers are complaining that they are not being properly provided support to clean up their shops and so that they can make their business up and running. Similarly, people are doing on the self-help basis, or we have seen that local philanthropies, organization like Al Khidmat Foundation and many other, they are on the ground. So situation is that's why we thought that we should have this very pertinent discussion today here at this forum so that we can learn from the experts, and particularly Dr. Hafiz Saab is with us, who will also later on to talk about or tell us about the humanitarian situation and how they are responding. To start with, on the situation regarding weather, I would request Dr. Shahzada Adnan साहब कि वो हमें ज़रा थोड़ा सा बताएं कि वेदर जो हैं वो कितने कंसर्टन रहे हैं, अभी क्या सूरत हाल है, अभी जैसे 1-2 स्पेल्स की बात और हो रही है, तो अभी तक की जो सिचुएशन है इन टर्म्स ऑफ वेदर कंडीशन, उस पर ज़रा आप अपनी ब्रीफिंग दे लें उसके बाद, ताकि फिर हम उस पर डिबेट के लिए बाकी कॉलीग से भी रिक्वेस्ट करें। ओवर टू यू डॉक्टर शहजादा अदनान साहब। जी शहजादा अदनान साहब। Can you see what is the problem faced by? Oh, okay. Yes. Now we can see your screen, Dr. Shahzada sir. Please unmute if you are speaking. We cannot hear your voice. Dr. Anjali, welcome. Still we cannot hear you, sir. I think if we cannot hear Adnan Saab, then maybe I can request Dr. Sophia.
जी अस्सलाम वालेकुम।
जी वालेकुम सलाम। जी डॉक्टर सोफिया।
जी
जी please, can you give your thoughts on the situation what we have recently I introduced?
जी आई वुड लाइक टू टॉक मोर अबाउट प्रिपेयर्डनेस, क्योंकि ये डिजास्टर्स या ये जो हैं ये कोई नई चीज नहीं है, हमारे पास पहले भी वो आते रहे हैं, लेकिन प्रॉब्लम हमारे पास मेरी नज़र में जो है वो प्रिपेयर्डनेस का है। हमारी इतनी प्रिपेयर्डनेस होती नहीं है। और जैसे फॉर एग्जांपल एक मुझे लगता है कि इसमें अनदर इम्पॉर्टेंट थिंग इज आल्सो दिस कि हमारे लोगों के बिहेवियरल इश्यूज भी हैं। व्हाई आई एम सेइंग दिस के बिहेवियरल इश्यूज, क्योंकि जब आप कोई इंटरवेंशन करना चाहते हैं या तो लोग उसको सीरियस नहीं लेते, बिल्कुल उसके ऊपर वो नहीं करते। आप देखें ये जो फ्लड की अभी हम बात कर रहे हैं सिचुएशन, अगर ये खास तौर पे नॉर्थ की आप बात कर रहे थे, तो यहाँ पे अभी हमारे पास काफी सारे इस तरह के इवेंट्स हुए हैं। अब ये एनडीएमए की काफी सारी प्रिकॉशंस आती भी रही इनके, अब तो इन्होंने पीटीए के साथ करके टेलीफोन के ऊपर भी, आपके फोन के ऊपर उसमें वो भी आता रहा कि आप नॉर्थ की तरफ ना जाएं, रेनफॉल प्रिडिक्टेड है, ये होगा वो, लेकिन लोग जाते रहे हैं। कोई इतना उन्होंने उस चीज को सीरियस नहीं लिया, और हमारे कितने लाइफ के लॉसेस हुए हैं इस तरह से, कितना हमारा मसला। अच्छा, इसके अलावा ये कि अगर ये इस तरह हो भी इन केस, तो ये जब अगर पता है कि ये चीज होनी है इस तरह हमारे पास, ठीक है, आई वुड से कि ये जो क्लाउड बर्स्ट के इवेंट्स होते हैं उनको हम इस तरह से फोरकास्ट, मतलब इतना उस तरह टाइमली शायद नहीं कर पाते, लेकिन अदरवाइज रेनफॉल कितनी होगी या मतलब क्या क्या फ्लड की सिचुएशन होगी, इसके बारे में तो हमें कुछ इन्फॉर्मेशन या कुछ थोड़ी सी फोरकास्टिंग तो हो जाती है हमारी एनडीएमए की तरफ से भी। तो उसके लिए भी हमारी उस तरह से प्रिपेयर्डनेस होती नहीं है। अब जैसे फॉर एग्जांपल बहुत सारी स्ट्रेटजीज हैं, अगर किसी हमें पता है कि इस पर्टिकुलर एरिया में फ्लो ज्यादा होगा और चांसेस हैं फ्लड के, तो वहां पहले से उसको इवैक्यूएट कराएं, या उसमें कुछ इस तरह का सिस्टम रखें कि लोगों की पहले से कोई इस तरह की ड्रिल्स हो, कोई ऐसी उनको अवेयरनेस दी जाए, उनको पता हो कि अगर यहाँ पे इस एरिया में फ्लड आ जाता है किसी भी टाइम, तो उनके लिए उन्होंने क्या करना है, क्या इमरजेंसी में कॉन्टेक्ट उनके पास होंगे, कौन सा ऐसा सेफ पॉइंट होगा जहां पर उन्होंने जमा होना है। और मैंने ये देखा है कि इस तरह की अगर इंटरवेंशन की भी जाए ना, तो भी बहुत सारे इसमें उस तरह से सीरियसनेस नहीं होती है हमारा। अनफॉर्चुनेटली अभी तक सिस्टम जो चल रहा है ना, बिहेवियरल रिस्पॉन्स भी लोगों का और हमारे बहुत सारे इंस्टीट्यूशंस का भी जो रिस्पॉन्स है, वो रिएक्टिव रिस्पॉन्स होता है। चीज हो जाती है, उसके बाद फिर हमें उसकी फिक्र होती है कि अब ये हो गया तो अब हम क्या करें और किस तरह। जबकि हमारी प्रोएक्टिव अप्रोच होनी चाहिए, पहले से हमारा ये सारा हमें पता हो, हम अगर इस तरह की कोई इमरजेंसी की सिचुएशन आ जाती है, कोई फ्लड होना है कुछ, तो उसके लिए हमने क्या करना है, कहाँ पे जाना है, कैसे। अभी देखें, अभी हमारे पास बिल्कुल रिसेंट एग्जांपल, ये जो गिलगित बल्तिस्तान में गोपिस के एरिया में हुआ है रिसेंटली, वो एक जो शेफर्ड था, चरवाहा, जिसने इन्फॉर्म किया, और कितनी सारी लाइफ जो है वो हम सेव कर सके टाइमली उसके ऊपर। तो लेकिन ये कि अगर हम ये करें, अब आपको एक मैं सिंपल सी एग्जांपल इस तरह भी बताती हूँ कि जैसे फॉर एग्जांपल मैं यूके में थी, ठीक है, हमारा अनफॉर्चुनेटली एज ए नेशन ही हमारे अंदर शायद ये डिजास्टर के लिए या इमरजेंसी सिचुएशंस के लिए ना कोई इस तरह की ट्रेनिंग या इस तरह की चीज हो भी ना, तो हम उसको शायद एक्सेप्ट नहीं कर पाते। क्योंकि मैं आपको भी एग्जांपल बता रही थी कि मैं अपनी पढ़ाई के सिलसिले में जब यूके में थी, तो इंपीरियल कॉलेज लंदन में हमारी वहां पे क्योंकि फायर के इवेंट ज्यादा होते हैं, तो वो दे आर मोर कंसर्न। लंदन में हुआ था एक दफा, उसके बाद से दे उनकी हेल्थ एंड सेफ्टी में ज्यादा उसके ऊपर। तो वहां पे उन्होंने कोई ईमेल की हमें कि जी इस डेट को इस टाइम पे 8 o'clock इन द मॉर्निंग फायर ड्रिल होनी है और ये उसका प्रोसीजर होगा। तो अब मेरे साथ और भी 3-4 पाकिस्तानी स्टूडेंट्स थे, हमने उसको इतना सीरियस नहीं लिया। और वो फिर जब फायर अलार्म बजा तो वी वर इन आवर रूम्स और हम आराम से बैठे रहे, हम निकले ही नहीं, कोई मतलब उस तरह का वो था नहीं। तो अगले दिन मतलब हमें बड़ी सीरियस किस्म की वहां से एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन की तरफ से ईमेल वार्निंग्स आई हमें कि आपने ये फायर ड्रिल की, ये क्यों नहीं अटेंड की। और मतलब इट वाज सो इम्पोर्टेंट कि आपको पता हो कि असेंबली पॉइंट कहाँ पर है, और अगर इस तरह हो जाए तो आपने क्या करना है। और ये मतलब दे टुक इट वेरी सीरियसली। तो हमारी तरफ अनफॉर्चुनेटली इस तरह नहीं है। अब आप देखें, हमारी जो बिल्डिंग्स बहुत सारी ये होती हैं, इन्वायरमेंटल इम्पैक्ट असेसमेंट रिपोर्ट्स जब लिखते हैं या करते हैं कोई कंस्ट्रक्शन के लिए, उसके अंदर फायर हैजर्ड या इसका भी कोई कुछ देते हैं प्लान। तो मुझे याद है कि सेंटोरस जब बन रहा था, उस वक्त उसकी कोई एक रिपोर्ट मैंने उस टाइम पे देखी, उसके अंदर उन्होंने बाकायदा लिखा हुआ था कि एवरी ईयर वी विल हैव द फायर ड्रिल्स एंड दिस। लेकिन अनफॉर्चुनेटली शुरू के 2-3 साल शायद होती रही, उसके बाद फिर ये नहीं हुआ। और देखें, सेंटोरस में वी हैड दैट इवेंट ऑफ फायर एट दैट टाइम, अभी पिछले साल या उससे पिछले साल की बात है जब हुआ। तो ये अगर इस तरह रेगुलर ड्रिल्स होती रहे, मतलब इस तरह की, अब जो ये अगर हम आप बात करें
That's about, can you make a mix of it because there are some international audience also.
Okay, okay. So I was talking, I'm just saying that if we have floods, then we really need to have the preparedness for that. And for preparedness, we really need to like educate, especially the communities about it, about if any such, if they get any such early warning, they really need to be serious about it. They should be taught about where is a safe point to gather, what to do in such case, whom to contact, and what then we can save a lot of lives. We can save many lives in this way. So this is very important. So, and another thing, we in our like planning, we should keep it in such a way that it should be inclusive. Inclusive plus planning means that we should have like the we should have the different all gender in it, so that and we should include them in the decision making. And for that actually we need a lot data. One problem that we have, and I have seen, is that we have very little researches about it, so we are deficient of data about it as well. So in a community, especially flood prone areas, we really should have data about the sex, of the people there, about the age of the people there, so, and about the vulnerable groups in that community, so that we can plan accordingly. So this is really important. So
Thank you.
okay.
Thank you, Rasaba. You have rightly said that there is a need for people's awareness so that they can ensure that they are safe and their lives could be saved. And also, you talked about DRR plans with drills and all these things, so that people should be ready. Actually, you rightly mentioned that we have a mindset which is only reactive. When there will be any disaster, we only think about that and react on that. It should be a proactive, because DRR or preparedness, and they should not only be proactive, but the way we are facing disaster now, we must even anticipatory action in our planning. Our planning should tell about that if such level incident happen, how prepared we are for that, including the evacuation plan, including the contingency humanitarian response, including the pre-agreed or ready cash for support of the people, and which sort of non-food item they need for evacuation, or even if the flood hits, which sort of things they need to come to make their comeback by using all these techniques. You are very right that unless we are prepared, we cannot face the disaster. We have a frequency of them. Thank you, Dr. Sophia. Now I would request Dr. Dilip to give her perspective on the situation. Dr. Sabha has talked about preparedness and DRR perspective, and we would like to hear your perspective.
Thank you so much, sir. I would like to talk about how floods and climatic disasters are gender biased. That is, the weaker gender and the children are more affected by the floods and other climatic disasters. Let me just share my screen with you.
Sure.
Yes, can you see the screen?
Not yet.
Okay. Which one is this?
Yeah, now we can see.
Yeah. So okay, so unprecedented monsoon impacts in Pakistan, climate extremes, and humanitarian challenges as is a theme of the roundtable of today's. So I believe disasters are mostly, all kind of climatic disasters and natural disasters are mostly gender biased. They tend to affect women and children and other minorities actually in a worst manner as compared to the men when we talk about genders, and as compared to mainstream majority ethnic groups of any community. So I would like to come to the point. So Pakistan is among the top 10 most climate vulnerable countries. According to German Watch 2021, the 2025 monsoon season is marked by record rainfall, glacier melts, and flash floods. The impacts we have seen with our own eyes, people missing, houses being washed away, fields and animals and croplands all getting totally submerged. And Pakistan, on the contrary, Pakistan contributes less than 1% of global emissions, but is disproportionately affected by the climate change, despite the fact that our industrial production is least, and it is at the lowest level, it is contributing to the carbon footprint and other GHGs, which cause climate conditions, adverse climate conditions. And climate justice, this kind of situation calls for climate justice and gender equity in post-disaster relief works. How is gender marginalized? First and foremost is health and mobility. We know that women are women and children are not prepared in our societies for to deal with any kind of adverse circumstances. They are mostly supposed to stay inside, deal with routine matters, and just do the regular chores. Whenever there is any kind of untoward situation, neither women nor children nor marginalized communities are prepared as to what to do and how to avert the maximum possible losses or maximum possible harm from the climatic conditions or any kind of disaster. Second issue that arises is of sanitation, and that again hurts women and children the most. In displacement camps, lack of private toilets, menstrual hygiene support, and safe water are disproportionately available or provided to women and female children and infant children as well. Economic impact indirectly then affects gender, the weaker gender, the children, the minorities. Women farmers lose their livelihoods. Their informal work does not get registered while relief statistics are compiled, and displacement increases the risk of GBVs, trafficking, and child marriages. And we have seen this happening across the world, not only in our own communities, but across the world. We have seen that women are not only at risk of being marginalized, they are at risk of increased violence against them in displacement camps. When it comes to education, that too gets hurt adversely, and girls mostly get dropped out of schools due to a loss of facilities, lack of any relief work that could rehabilitate their educational institutions, and also because of economic losses in the households and in the societies, they have to take additional roles of caregiving post-disaster situations there that forces them to drop out of the schools or forget about any educational inspirations. In this situation, human-induced climatic disasters are not just melting of glaciers and not just industrial pollution that is affecting the climatic conditions, but it is human-induced warming. Human-induced warming is also contributing to climate actions, and which has increased the rainfall intensity by 10 to 15% for year 2025, according to World Weather Report. South Asia now is at an increased risk of frequent and extreme precipitations and flash floods moving on from 2025. The floods will become a normal and a trend in South Asia. So that calls for people at home and people in South Asian region to be more vigilant and more prepared. So how are we tackling the climate disasters? Government does its part. Military also does its part when it's about rescuing the people, when it's about evacuating people. But we have seen that it's much delayed. The losses, we have already suffered the losses. A lot of people were washed away right in front of our eyes, and entire families from family from Multan, I guess, doctor's family, another family group of tourists, 16 people included, they were washed away right in front of eyes of people, and no relief and rescue and evacuation could be conducted. So military is doing its part, government is doing its part, but it's much delayed and losses are there. United Nations and other NGOs are providing food, shelter, water and sanitation kits, and doing other things, but they are not sufficient. There are gaps which need to be addressed, like warning in remote areas where the risk of disaster impacts is highest. there is no system of warning the people and preparing the people. Gender insensitive relief. The relief works are usually gender insensitive, which means that uh, um, pregnant women are not taking into consideration, girls and women and their security and their privacy is not taken into consideration. And if it is done, it is on a very scanty level, which means that the relief works are not gender sensitive. Women are more exposed towards harsh post-disaster conditions as compared to men, as I started my presentation point with. So there are gaps, and gaps are glaring, and they need to be taken care of, because floods are not going anywhere. They are going to stay with us. I would like to suggest a relief work and a warning system which is gender responsive, adaptation based. We should bring the women into the mainstream, bring the women, ensure that women participation in gender preparedness is higher. And we have to make the shelters and relief works gender sensitive, which again includes privacy, maternal care, menstrual kits, etc. Climate-proof housing, drainage, and transport must be ensured in post-disaster circumstances. Early warnings, as I just mentioned before, early warnings are very, very important. We have to warn the people, we have to prepare the people before we have actually lost the lives, property, and fields to the flash floods. And then there is, it's not just the local government that has to do all the work, because we are not responsible for the climate change. It's the globally advanced countries that are basically responsible for this climate change, which the impacts of which are harshest for we people, the South Asian people, or any other country or economy which is developing, because we are not prepared, we do not have enough resources. So we cannot do it alone. Global responsibility, that is, global leaders have to take the responsibility, and they have to share the burden, as they have played a part in causing the problem.
Thank you. Thank you, Rasha. You have more slides?
No, it's just concluding.
Okay. So make a concluding statement.
Yeah. Pakistan's 2025 monsoon exemplifies a climate-induced humanitarian crisis. It is a humanitarian crisis, and it is climate-induced. Women, children, and marginalized groups are most at risk, and building resilience requires climate justice globally, plus inclusive governance locally is required to tackle the climate change and disasters caused by climate change. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Sabha. Actually, you rightly build a correlation among three things. One is that climate change is causing more floods now. Second thing is that gender component is always undermined when there is a response plan. Generally, it is said that gender is included in the response plan, but practically we see that there are a lot of gaps in the plan, which ultimately discriminate on the basis of gender. For example, if the plan is there and if there is no women specific needs are met in the plan, then of course it is not inclusive. So you rightly mentioned that we have to have a inclusive response plan in this situation, and we have to fight back this thing, and not just as disaster, but a disaster caused by climate change, which is a continuous phenomenon now. So with this, I would like to thank Dr. Sabha. Now I would request Shehzada Adnan Sahab. Dr. Sabha, if you can, because you have seen that Dr. Sophia talked about the preparedness. We should have an early warning system, preparedness. Then we had a discussion from Dr. Andalip Sahaba. She talked about how we can link this with climate change, how we should make the response inclusive. Now it is your time for presentation, because ultimately you can tell about how things are happening in terms of heavy monsoon, what is going on the grounds. Over to you, Shehzada Irfan.
Thank you, Doctor. Am I audible?
जी डॉक्टर साहब, जी डॉक्टर साहब, carry on.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. Once again, sorry for the technological problems.
No, it's
Actually,
okay.
there are a lot of things that have been discussed today, and we have seen that during this monsoon season, there was some unprecedented event that occurred. Particularly in the northern area, we have seen the heat wave, due to which the Gulf activity was triggered. Similarly, we have seen that some of our eastern river, particularly the Satluj River, as you rightly mentioned, it is experiencing the high flood currently. And similarly, some of the urban flooding in Lahore, in Karachi, and some of the central Punjab. These are my quick outlines in which I will just quickly go through these slides. If we see the monsoon, you know, it's a 100,000 years of phenomena over this region. Indian summer monsoon is one of the largest synoptic mesoscale system that experienced from the history. And this system is not only beneficial for two-third population of the world, but also, you know, our day-to-day affairs are highly associated with this monsoon system. It not only regulate our rivers, but also produce a good storage for our reservoir, which ultimately used for our livelihood, for agriculture activity and power generation. So, if we see that this is the reversal of winds which normally come from the ocean when the ocean temperatures become, you know, pressure, ocean temperature are relatively high as compared to the land, then the system propagate from the ocean towards the land. You have two figure A and B, you can see that the temperature contrast and as well as the pressure contrast, how the system propagate and converge over the South Asian region, particularly we call the subcontinent. In the bottom, if you see in the bottom left, this is the propagation of the rainfall system, which normally converge from the Indian Peninsula towards the northwestern part of India, which we call the northeastern Punjab, some of the AJK region, and as well as the central part of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and some of the southeastern part of Punjab. On the right side, you can see the normally track of the monsoon in Pakistan. The monsoon are normally now onset on 1st of July with a standard deviation of 10 to 12 days. Earlier, it was the 15th of July, but due to the abnormal behavior over the last 30 years, monsoon has changed its dynamic and it start to early onset. Uh, like it was earlier, it was like 15th July, but now it's onset on the 1st of July. And this year, we also experienced that the monsoon was 5 days earlier. It was on 25th June when monsoon first hit Pakistan received first amount of rainfall in our eastern part, particularly Sialkot, Lahore, Gujranwala, and this region. This is the normal track of the monsoon. If we see that the monsoon depressions or low pressure system move from the Bay of Bengal and then it converts, one system converts from the, after crossing the Indian Peninsula, converts to the northeastern part, and the other system, the other low pressure system converges towards the southern part of the country. Where another system which we call the westerly waves, which normally in winter are in the central and northern part of the country, but in summer they shift towards the northward. But sometimes when these winds move towards the northern part, they create very heavy rainfall, which we call the extreme heavy flooding, like back in 2010. These, when the monsoon onset completely, the core monsoon region, which we call the northeastern part of Pakistan or Punjab, they are the core monsoon region in which most of our eastern river, whether it's a Ravi, Satluj, Chenab, and even Jhelum, they are the they lie their catchment area lies in the core monsoon region. So if we got a very heavy rainfall in our catchment, we receive, you know, the flooding events. But it depends upon the reservoir capability or capacity which are in the catchment areas under the possession of India. So if the dams are filled there, then there's a high probability that these eastern river cause a very high flooding. The Pong, Bhakra, these dams have a very storage capacity is very limited. So very 2 to 3 very good amount of rainfall. The dam storage are up to the like 80-85%, and afterwards when there is a 1 to 2 system may penetrate in these areas, they can cause the the flooding in the in the eastern river of Pakistan. If we see the tracks of the monsoon back in 2021, you can see the most of the monsoon system converges towards the south of the country. In 2022, when we received the unprecedented pluvial flooding in the southern half of the country, again the monsoon track was concentrated more towards the southern part of the country. Again, 2023, you can see the abnormal behavior, and in 2024, again towards the southern part of the country. So it is very difficult that every year we have a new story. So prediction for a national hydrometeorological agency, not only in Pakistan, but also Indian Met Department, the Bangladesh Met Department, Sri Lanka, it has become a bigger challenge because every time we have a new challenge of monsoon dynamics, its intensity, its propagation. So association with some of the, the teleconnection is very difficult. And that is one of the, scientific challenge for the numerical weather prediction model also. This is the overall whole track of the monsoon. If you see that over the last 5 years, the monsoon is switched from northeastern part towards the southern part of the country. And unfortunately, we do not have the reservoir in the southern part of the country. So, and the plain agriculture plains of Punjab or the Sindh, they are, very plain area. So most of the rainfall which occurred over this area, the water inundate a large area and water remains stagnant. For which occurred over this area, the water inundate a large area and water remains stagnant for many. How to, overcome this challenge to build reservoirs, small dams that not only help the groundwater recharge over these areas. Uh, every year we saw the water shortage problem, particularly in the southern half of the country, the South Punjab, in Sindh province, and even in Balochistan. So this is a great opportunity for us to build small reservoirs, small dams to uplift the water table, and that water will be sufficient enough to fulfill the water requirement for rest of the season. If we see the seasonal forecast that issued by Pakistan Meteorological Department back in 29th May 2025, there was a forecast that this year Pakistan will receive 13% above normal rainfall, and most of the rainfall will be concentrated in the northeastern part of the country, particularly Punjab and AJK region, as well as the Indian occupied Kashmir region, whereas the temperature will be above normal. If you see the special map of 1st July, August, and September, you can see most of the model has consensus that high extreme rainfall events would be occurred in the northeastern part of the country. If you see the temperature, you can see a clear anomaly that almost 99% of the model has agreement that the temperature will be very high in the northern part of country. So based on that, Pakistan Meteorological Department issued the GLOF advisory during this, seasonal outlook, that there's a high probability that temperature will be very high, and we have observed 7 to 9 degree above normal temperature, and we have seen unprecedented, the glaciers, lake outburst flooding in the northern parts of the country. This is the overall seasonal outlook, and you can see on the left side, the top, the red colored or the light red colored tone shows that the rain will be below normal. It means their cloud cover will be minimum, and these areas will be much more exposure to the sunlight. The second thing, that this year we received very low amount of snowfall in winter. Winter was almost dry. So whatever the rain, whatever the snow we received after the mid of January, it was not accumulated. It was just create runoff. Normally, the snow which we receive before January or maybe in December or November, that snow accumulate and it provide a shelter to the glaciers. So this was another reason that there was no snow cover at that time. The direct glaciers were, exposed due to the high temperature, and it caused, very intense and unprecedented events after event of Gulf in the northern part of the country. This is the overall monsoon scenario. If we see that Pakistan overall up to date received 14.2% above normal rainfall, and whereas if you see the in August, the temperature, due to rainfall and temperature, the first 15 days was like below normal, but after 15th of August, we see a good amount of rainfall in the Karachi, Hyderabad, Sindh, some of the southern part of Balochistan, northeastern Balochistan, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, particularly you have heard of Pune, Swabi, and some parts of Kakul, Ahmedabad, and whereas in Potwar region as well as the northeastern part of the country. Or if we see the temperature anomaly up to date from 1st July to mid of 24th of August, you can see that Gilgit-Baltistan experienced more than 1 degree temperature, high temperature above normal, due to which if 1 degree rise means 7% of moisture the wind can atmosphere can accumulate. So when the moisture will extract, it will cause heavy downpours, and uh, that can cause a devastating for that region. Overall, this is the summary of the early warning monsoon. So many early warnings were issued, like in from seasonal outlook. That was purely for the planners, policy.
Sir, we have lost your voice. Audio issue again. Yes, again there is a technical issue. We are not here. We cannot hear Dr. Adnan Sahab. Anyway, I would like to thank Dr. Shahzada Adnan Sahab here for providing us a snapshot of what is going on in terms of the monsoon situation in Pakistan, and also what is the state of temperature previously and now. And thank you for building a relation between the heat wave in the northern areas that caused Gulf, and again this scenario that heat would be, or the temperature would be on the rise in the northern part, and other parts we will having these kind of things and changes we are witnessing through the pressures from the weather related situations. Thank you, Dr. Saab, here. Now I would move to Dr. Hafizur Rahman Saab. Sir, you have heard the three presentation. So my request to you would be, since you are extensively doing the humanitarian work, particularly in terms of reaching out to the people, those who have been inaccessible, what sort of support they need, what is going on already, what is the role of other interagencies in that way, what gaps do you see that we as a nation should fill in? Thank you. Over to you, Dr. Hafiz.
Thank you. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Thank you, Brother Shafkat Munir Saab. It's my great honor and pleasure to be on this panel at this moment. But one thing I would like to clarify that I am not an expert on the climate change. Primarily, I am an eye surgeon and doing this relief activities voluntarily and leading an NGO by the name of Al Khidmat Foundation, Pakistan, for the last many years. So I am involved in Al Khidmat. Being the head of Al Khidmat Foundation, I witnessed various floods, flood of 2010, then 2012, and then 2022, and now in 2025. As a layman, I would like to add few things, though everything is covered by previous speakers, but I would like to add, and you can say the emphasize. In the last three floods till 2022, the plain areas were affected mainly, and the water was there on that area. And when I saw these calamities, and I learned that if there were multiple dams, hundreds of dams in the different passages of the water that could have retained the water, and we could have generated the power from them and utilized that water for the irrigation and prevented the flood. But unfortunately, nothing is done on that side because the relief organizations only do when the disaster occurs, and they will come for the rescue, relief, and rehabilitation. But the government and its institutions should come forward and do the research and come for the this disaster reduction, which I told you that by the building of various dams, we could have reduced the disaster in the form of floods. And this time in 2025, especially in the area of Bunair and Dir and Swat, I have seen different phenomena here. Because there was torrential rain, or you can say the cloud burst, etc. Heavy rains in a very small span of time. But the thing was very devastating because that mountain, for example, this mountain, Alam, which is there in between the Bunair and Swat. On Bunair side, what happened? The water came suddenly downstream, and on that stream, there were houses and the shops already built there. And the water was so fast and carrying the logs of these trees, etc., because there was deforesting in that area. The main problem was this, that the trees were cut and the logs were lying there and the stones were there. So the water came with the stones and the logs to that area and demolished all the houses and the shops in that area. The other side of this Alam River, in the side of Swat, I would say, where there's a Bangladesh area and other 2 kilometers of the population of about 100,000 people living there. In that area, what happened? There was this passage, water passage already there, but probably that was filled with the unwanted materials, and the water could not accommodate that, and it risen above the level, and it entered into the houses and the buildings of that area. So here in this area, I think we can mitigate by preventing this deforesting and also inhibiting the people to build, to construct the houses or the hotels or the buildings in the passages of the water. So the water passages should remain clear up to the extent where we see the stones lying there, because these stones lying there means the water can reach there. So all that area should be clear, and this is the duty of the government to make the passages clear and do not allow the people to construct on that area. Whatever happens afterwards, when the floods comes, of course, the rescue, our departments are not prepared for that rescue, and the NGO cannot do much for this purpose. So the people barehanded reached there, whatever they could do, they did it. But preparedness at the level of the government and the institution should be there. And of course, we're doing the relief, and we're trying to remove the mud from the houses and the shops and from the small passages of those localities. But of course, this is a very difficult task, and we have to bring a lot of machinery for that purpose. So we are hiring the machinery and doing the job, but the government should come up with the heavy machines and do that. So these are the few things. Many things are already covered, so I won't take much time. So again, I thank you all for giving me the opportunity to be here on this panel. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Afisa. You rightly mentioned NGO has a limited capacity to undertake humanitarian and relief work. These are ultimately the state agencies, those who have to respond. You are very right, and you have very rightly said that why such things are happening. When you are cutting in the name of timber, all the big logs are on the way you store there, and when they roll down to with the water, and then they hit like a bomb. So that's why whatever comes on the way, they wash them away. So this is I would connect it with what initially Dr. Sophia has said, that there is a need for a mindset or a behavior change. So we have to change our behavior against the nature. We have to change our behavior against natural flows of water. If we'll be instructing, obstructing these ways, then certainly we have to have these kind of drastic disasters and devastating situation now we are facing. Thank you all the participants and panelists and participants. I would now open the floor if anyone has a question. Just raise your hand so that I can see and invite you for a particular question for the panelists. Or if somebody wrote in the chat box, I can see that as well. If there is no question, then once again, I would like to thank our panelists who spared their time and provided their expert view and input here. We will, this discussion will continue because, the floods, climate change, they are part of our life. We have to discuss such thing time and again, and at least make people and duty bearer responsible towards their duties and realization from the lesson learned from our previous experiences. But whatever we have seen is that there are certain gaps in plans and implementations. And that is why we see that we have not learned the lesson from previous disasters. If we will not learn the lesson and we will not listen to the voice of the nature, then I am afraid that we will have to continue these kind of sufferings. We have all sympathies with our brother and sister, children, those who have been infected in these floods, and those departed. We think that they deserve a prayer from us, and those who are behind them, they need a proper care by the government and by the duty bearers. So with this, I would like to thank again all of you. Thank you very much to participate here.